Hey guys, welcome to another video. On this one I'm going to be installing my new 3.0 Icon front suspension, upper control arms, 37-inch tires. It was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. I'm out here in Julian, California enjoying it for the first time, and the ride is awesome. We got the tie rod end undone. We've got the lower two bolts on the spindle or knuckle, whatever you call it, undone. The strut is undone from the lower A-arm. Lower A-arm is loosened up at the alignment pivot points there, so now it swings freely. So now I'm just undoing the four bolts at the top of the strut. That way the strut drops out. I've got to go get a 39mm 12 point for the axle nut, which I don't have, and nobody else does either, so I'm having to order one. So making progress on taking it apart. Alright, the lower A-arms are off. I've drilled out the holes on the cam tab mounts. These are the stock ones. They had spot welds. These are going to get taken off, and I'm going to put on the, I think they're a Total Chaos cam tab kit. They're just heavier duty, that way the ears on the ends here don't bend out. I've heard that the stock ones will bend, so I'm putting on the beefier ones. So drill all the spot welds out, and then you use some sort of chisel. I have an air chisel, and you'll just knock them out of the way. Alright, so this is the new cam tab gusset kit. Here's the main plate that's going to be welded to the truck, and then I just got to weld in these little tabs here that the actual cam on the bolt is going to adjust the alignment for. So we're just burning these in with our MIG welder, and then we'll get these mounted as a unit up onto the truck. Next step is this Total Chaos spindle gusset. I'm using the stock upper control arm to bolt the ball joint into the top of the spindle gusset so it puts it in the right place. I've cleaned all the stock paint off the snout of the spindle or knuckle, whatever you call it. So this plate I'm gonna get tacked on here. So I'm over at my buddy Eric's house using his 220 welder to get these spindle gussets welded up. I had previously just tacked them in with a 110 volt MIG welder just to hold them there in place until I came over here this morning. I'm gonna really get them burnt in hot with the 220 welder so they're structurally a lot stronger than the 110. Just pulled the stock upper control arm off. This long through bolt goes all the way through the top of this coil bucket, through this sleeve, out this side, with a big nut on this end, 22 millimeter on both sides, and then just feed it out towards the front of the truck. Pull the stock arm out. Here's the Icon upper control arm. It's got the 2 misalignment spacers. The bigger ones go on the outside, the smaller ones go on the inside, and then it's gonna fit right up in here. All right, got it slid in there. The back one's not quite lined up, but I'm gonna focus on the front. Get this bolt started, get it fed through, hopefully. Of course, every hose and wire loom that's up front underneath the battery is catching the head of the bolt right now. All right, that's all the way through the front. Now I gotta get the back to line up. There it goes. Factory hardware back on. Drop the nut. All right, upper arm is in. Just need to tighten that bolt down. Well, I screwed that one up when I was trimming the bump stop to fit the bigger coil shock in there. The die grinder just nicked the CV boot. So pulled it out and took the metal bands off the CV boot. There's a metal clip, metal C-clip that goes on the end of the axle shaft. You take that off. Now I can, well, it did pull off. I might have to tap on it again with a punch. All right, like I said, this just slides right off. It just was stuck on there from the grease or something. And this C-clip is what holds it on. You can just pry that off with a little flathead or a ice pick type tool. Here's the new boot. Take that off, slide the new boot on. Here's the other end of the axle. That goes on there. I've never worked on this specific type of CV on a Tundra, but most CV joints are all the same. It just depends on how big they are. So I labeled this gear, or not the gear, but the splined joint here out. That way I know this is the outside. It looks like it's identical if I were to flip it, but it's easier to just label it and put it back on the exact same way. And then this ball bearing carrier, it's bigger on this outside, smaller on the inboard side. So I'm just gonna kind of leave this set up, and this all fits in just like this. So bigger towards this housing here. I always like to take things off and then just place them the way that they came off. So, old boot. And right here at the end of my finger, you can see one little gouge mark from the cutoff blade. That's what went through the boot. There is 2 different boot sizes. These aren't the same. So I'm just gonna compare these, make sure I have the correct boot. So slip that on. Put this carrier back on the same way it came off. Put the spline back on. All right, we're getting ready to do the body mount chop using these plates from SDHQ. So I'm on the passenger side of the truck. I've already done the driver, so I kind of learned what to do over there, and now I'll show you the efficient way I'm doing it over here since I learned from the driver side. So for the plastic fender liner, we're gonna take out these plastic pins all the way up to about here, and then I'm just gonna fold this plastic piece up and out of the way so we can work down here. So the plan here is to chop the actual fender part a little bit on this line, and then this pinch weld, there's little spot welds that you can see running up. I'm gonna put horizontal lines in between the spot welds. So I'm gonna leave that one, and I'm gonna die cut in between. So every inch or inch and a half in between these spot welds, I'm gonna do little lines here, and then we're gonna fold this pinch weld over, and then we're gonna cut the body mount here, and then put in that plate. All right, body's chopped, pinch weld is sliced, and we're gonna bend it with the hammer like I was saying. The mount is chopped. I need to take a little more off this corner and then extend it to that line. So I intentionally cut short, that way I could be a little more accurate on this inner line. And then I'm cutting just as close to this bolt head as I can get. And then I even nicked the nut on the underneath side, but that doesn't matter. But that's how close you want to be to that bolt and nut going through there. That's all I'm gonna do for welding right now, is just those tack welds all the way around it. So if you could tell, I tacked this side, shaped it a little bit, bending it, tacked it here, and then shaped it a little more so it was a tighter fit. Tacked it here. That way it's a nice tight fit. I also beveled the edge of the truck, so whether you can see this in the camera or not, that's kind of a V shape all the way along here, so just get a little bit better, cleaner weld. Won't have to grind as much, it'll look better when it's all painted. So now it's time to sledgehammer this pinch weld over. I know some guys go higher up, but I want to test fit it. I'm choosing to stop at this little mount for the plastic pin for the fender liner. So I want to be able to use that one and this one if I can. I'm going to reshape the fender liner to fit in here. So hopefully that's enough. If not, I'll cut this up further and probably go to this mount and leave this one and just bend this section over. All right, well, discount just called, so I'm gonna interrupt the body mount chop and we're gonna go get 5 new 37-inch KM3s. So I need to get my truck leveled out. I'm gonna lower the front end down a little bit so it doesn't fall off the jack stands or anything. Take those rear tires off, take my spare off the back, and head to discount just with the 5 tires, have them swap them out, and then I'll bring them back and mount them on my truck here in the driveway. All right, tires are all off. Front end looking good, back end not so good. Icon shocks, the Omega bypasses getting switched out here. Airbags coming out. This bracket's all getting chopped out and hydraulic bump stops going in, and a new leaf pack, old worn out 35s, soon to be 37s. Got all the new 37s, got my old 35s. I'm gonna post those for sale. Excited to get these mounted. Got the plastic reinstalled. I drilled into the pinch weld that's folded over, and I screwed these 2 self-tapping screws in. I'm gonna paint the heads black. Used the heat gun and warmed up the plastic from underneath this plastic pin here. Added another pin over here, so I drilled a fresh hole and kind of stretched the plastic this way because this used to be all bent up. Drilled a new hole underneath here, added a new plastic pin into the underside of the body. Like I said, that's just tacked on there to make sure the wheel clears it and I don't have to chop more, or like chop over here more and then flatten this out. Just giving myself some options, that way I don't have to completely cut that thing out. So we're ready to throw the tires on. All right, truck's all loaded up on the tow truck, headed off to alignment. I didn't want to ruin the brand new tires, so we'll get it set up correctly. All right, truck's back from alignment. It's all dialed in. They said the upper control arm having those heim joints on it made it super easy to align. Super excited about how it rides. It's unbelievable. Let me show you around the front end a little bit and show you the finished product. So here's the end result of the body mount chop. The plate's in there, it's all painted up. I've got the plastic remolded here using that heat gun, like I said. A couple screws holding the plastic tight. Plenty of clearance. So that's what I've got with the 37. Still got a couple inches there. So I've got the reservoir mounted with the Icon supplied bracket here. The upper control arm. Got the coilover mounted. I've had to crank down the spring a little bit because my truck's heavy. Did the full 1.25 inch threads that Icon recommends. So that's the max that you can crank the spring down before you get any coil binding. But that got me to the ride height and the level that I like. So underneath the truck here, there's that CV boot that I replaced. You gotta move the steering boot in about 1 inch and they give you new metal clamps here. So the coilover and the upper control arm from a different angle. Here's the spindle that I was welding up with the new gusset mounted on there, all painted up. The cam tab gussets. At some point here I'm gonna recoat the lower control arm because those things look horrible. And then I also did a whole RCI skid plate set all the way to the back and rear differential skid as well. So when I was trimming that bump stop earlier and I nicked the CV boot, this is what I was trimming, and the reason was the coil clearance to this bump stop. So it's necessary. You're just kind of trimming that ear off the bump stop like there is on the right side there of the bump. You just trim the left side of it. I've got the rear shock installed. This airbag and leaf spring setup is not my final solution, but it's going to work for right now until I make up my mind on exactly what I want to do. Again, here's that RCI rear end skid plate, and the other shock on the driver's side is in the front of the rear end, so you can't really see it. But with the amount of compression and rebound adjustment that these shocks have, they work so much better than the stock ones. They can actually dampen the weight of this truck. So here's the finished ride height and stance. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it looks good. The tires fit the wheel wells pretty well. The suspension finally has the ability and strength to dampen the weight of this truck. So it rides better than it ever has. Can't wait to get out and start using it. All right, I think that wraps up this Icon suspension install video. If you got any questions about the process, let me know in the comments. Also, those of you running some heavy Tundras out there, please let me know what you did in the back for suspension. Whether you're doing a leaf spring airbag combo or just a whole new leaf pack that can handle the weight. I'm still trying to figure that one out. If you could check us out on Instagram, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Something exciting coming up. I've got a big brake kit for this truck on order. All this new suspension and tires and skid plate kit. The truck's getting heavy. I want to make sure it's safe and still fun to drive, so I've got a big brake kit on order. Excited to get that thing installed. That's a few weeks out though, like everything else. So yeah, again, thanks for checking out the video, and we'll catch you on the next one. And for those of you running big heavy Tundras, let me know what you did. Good timing.